Hello Internet, I'm the Disney Brain and welcome to the Andi Mack review. Last time, we got a lot of character stuff, some more clues into the mystery that is Andi's father, and a devastating but not overly shocking ending. This time, as expected, they expanded upon some of those elements with a few side plots thrown in. So, let's jump right in and discuss episode 6, She Said, She Said. We start things off with Andi debating on whether or not to tell Jonah what she saw at the end of the last episode. The others are fully in support of telling him the truth, but Andi rather not rock his world. This plot thread is easily the most vital one in this episode, so we'll cover the side plots first. The first one continues to play around with the ongoing struggle that is Beck's and Cece's relationship. Bex has made a lot of progress since returning home. She's trying to be a real mother, she's holding down a real job that she enjoys, and she's helping out around the house. But that's not enough for Cece. Since Ham is absent again, and neither Bex nor Cece is involved at all in the main plot, it was wise of the show to use this time to flesh them out as a pair. It'll make the inevitable moment when Cece finally does say she's proud of Bex that much more earned to have them continuing to go through rough patches now, even with relative stability on their front. And more than that, the episode actually allows Cece to start embracing Bex a bit more, so there's decent development there as well. Getting to subplot number 2 gives us the return of Marty from the party and the continuation of Buffy's track team adventures. Marty seems like a decent guy at first, before that slightly uncomfortable biological sexism kicks in, except he seems to be missing something pretty vital in his attempt to put down Buffy. Just because nobody can run faster than Usain Bolt, who is obviously male, doesn't mean a woman can't run faster than him. Especially considering that their times are not that far apart to begin with, and Buffy just joined a few weeks ago. So yeah, not really anything else of note coming from that plot, as Buffy continues to slay any and all challengers no matter the battlefield. Getting back to the main plot, Andi eventually tells Jonah about Amber and the new boy in the park. And this is by far the best acting we've gotten out of Asher Angel. The slow descent from cheerful and slightly oblivious into striking a balance between that and essentially screaming on the inside was pretty well done here. It hurts to see him hurt, which is credit to the likable and genuine character they built up well before this situation took place. Even his actions after confronting Amber off screen are well developed. It's the same guy that gave Amber Andi's bracelet just off the slightest of suspicions of foul play on his part. So, naturally, he'd feel more willing than literally anybody else to take Amber at her word, even though he probably knows deep down that she's lying. He's trying to balance the fear of losing Amber, who he genuinely likes for now, with the idea of accepting the fact that Andi wouldn't lie to him. That internal conflict is wonderfully presented here through all 3 scenes that contain Jonah dialogue. It's a case of Jonah almost being too nice for his own good, since all he wants is for everyone to be happy and content, which means playing the middle ground a fair bit in this conflict. But let's not take anything away from Andi here either. Peyton Elizabeth Lee is really starting to grow into her role, and I think this episode conveys a great acting turn from her as well. And then, we get to the last few minutes, which have been a recurring hotspot for twists and turns. This time around, the biggest one of them all. Andi's father, Bowie, is here, in the flesh. And at first impression, he's way less Kermit, and more like, what if Andi Brinker grew up and got a teenager pregnant? But, only time will tell us who he really is, especially the next episode. And that's episode 6, She Said, She Said. Another solid 20 plus minutes of television, which is what we've come to expect from this show. However, the side plots were a bit more hit or miss than in episodes past, especially with nothing for Cyrus to do in this one, which is always a shame. We already understand that Buffy is competitive, so giving her a platform to continue to be that is nice, I guess, but not overly necessary. And I'd rather they focus on delving more into her parental influence, since we learned last time that it's kind of a big deal. The Bex and Cece stuff will always be important because their relationship is one of the pillars of the show. I just hope that in the future, they balance out this dynamic by allowing us to learn more about Cece and her perspective more directly. A bit more history on how their relationship first started to go south could go a long way, and it would add a ton of depth to both mothers in this show. The Andi and Jonah stuff pretty much speaks for itself. It's all very well presented, very well acted, and all very affecting, and it showed a powerful new side to both Andi and Jonah that this show needed this specific incident to tap into. Everything we got from them here was very welcome as far as making the episode better, which more than makes up for the lack of any real Cyrus contributions this time around. And even with the telling preview for next week's episode, I have a hunch that this 3-way conflict will likely continue to manifest itself in different ways over time. And who knows, maybe it'll even get us a focus episode on Amber's alleged insecurities. But if I'm being completely honest, I'm not really enthusiastic about the possibility of seeing more of Amber, even if she by some miracle develops into a sort of, kind of, somewhat barely likable character one of these days. Also, I still think the father reveal should have been played with a bit more before Bowie actually came into the frame. We just learned his name a week ago, so why not give us a bit more clues to fiddle around with first? I'm assuming the show intends to unveil his layers in person as opposed to go through the grapevine of emails, but even still, it's not a decision I can say I totally agree with. It's impossible to say what the intentions for his introduction were, but it wasn't exactly spectacular. I think such a downplayed intro works if Bowie ends up being a very everyday, down-to-earth kind of guy, but if not, then it comes off as fairly flat, which is a bit at odds with the weight this show has placed on this specific discovery. But beyond even that, it probably means that the season finale will have the biggest game-changing twist yet that will ideally dwarf everything we've seen thus far. And since the father reveal can't be that anymore, I'm actually more excited since we don't know what such an episode could even look like, let alone what will end up happening in it. All in all, this episode had some great highs, a couple less memorable parts, but overall doesn't even come close to ending Andi Mack's practically unheard of good episode streak. And I hope it stays that way, because for me, analyzing great things far outweighs picking apart not so great things. Andi Mack isn't without its flaws, but said flaws are hardly worth discussing when they don't really do much to take away from the bigger picture that's forming. And, as I've often said, that picture will probably be a great one when we finally see it. But until then, chalk this one up as another win for Andi Mack. Next week, we'll look to hopefully extend the streak to 7 as Jonah becomes a free man and Bowie looks to make up for lost time. But until then, thanks for watching.
You want to race me? Sure. Name the place, name the time.
Right here, right now.